Thanks, Senator Grassley. Mr. Wynn, who retaliated against you, and are they still serving in government?
Thank you, Senator. There were multiple managers and staff within CBP's Office of Intelligence that retaliated against myself and us collectively. The first act of retaliation was to dismantle the WMD division within CBP's Office of Intelligence. This retaliatory act had the effect of leaving us sitting idle with absolutely no work all day. I'll just add that being iced with nothing to do is one of the most effective punishments I can think of if you want to retaliate against an employee. These acts were taken with the full knowledge of the management chain of CBP's Office of Intelligence.
So you have specific names. I can see where you don't want to, state them publicly, but we can be made aware of those names, and then I'm assuming they're still serving in DHS and within the agencies in government?
Sir, we can certainly provide you with all the names. At least two of those individuals are no longer employed by the federal government, but we can provide you with that information.
Okay. So under the Trump administration, their Office of Special Counsel were looking into this at the start of the Biden administration, that their investigation of the retaliation just stopped?
After the Office of Special Counsel looked into the issue, the retaliatory acts did continue.
They did continue.
They did continue.
Again,
yes.
But did you have an advocate inside the Biden administration Office of Special Counsel?
No, Senator, we did not.
Okay, so that speaks volumes. Mr. Taylor, in your testimony, you said, although I cannot speak to their motives. Again, what boggles my mind is you have bureaucrats within DHS. Their job is to secure this homeland, secure our border, and yet they won't follow the law. So I'm asking you. I'll ask Mr. Taylor next, too, because you said the bureaucrats immediately shut down DNA. Why? Why would they do it? Now, again, I do understand early on with Eric Holder, there was a year where they just did not have the capability. They wanted to obtain the capability, get the funding to establish it, but that was supposed to be a one-year exemption period, right? That was back in 2010?
Senator, that is correct. It defies, it's not lost on anyone here that this is the DNA Fingerprint Act of 2005. It was passed 19 years ago. If my memory serves me correctly, this legislation passed the House 416-4 and passed the Senate unanimously. Not that I follow all the litigation that's up. I'm sorry, the legislation that's up here, but that's pretty unanimous and pretty nonpartisan.
It was passed in 2005, not in reaction to what was happening on the border. This is just good law that if you're going to arrest somebody, we have this marvelous technology, DNA. We ought to take DNA samples, correct? And then all of a sudden, when we had the explosion on our border, sparked by DACA, now you had another purpose, another use for it, is trying to prevent the depredations of the exploitation of our asylum law, correct?
That's certainly a reasonable inference, sir.
So again, Mr. Taylor, why would bureaucrats in DHS simply refuse to follow the law, and a law that could prevent crimes, help solve crimes, and prevent human depredations of the invasion of this country?
Senator, I wish I could answer that.
I'm asking Mr. Jones.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Senator Johnson, we have been asked that question by so many individuals. There has never been anyone that has overtly said to us, we don't want to do this because. I will tell you that in April of 2018, after we had been shut down, the three of us were included on a conference call with the then acting commissioner and his staff, senior leaders from Border Patrol, OFO, Field Operations, and our Chief Counsel Office. The person who was the special assistant for then the acting commissioner came into the room on the conference call and said, the commissioner does not want to do this right now. He's being pressured by the secretary and by the attorney general. If we have to have a plan and DOJ pulls the nuclear card, which was then to remove any idea of the ability to not participate, there has to be a plan in place. That person left the room. We were on a phone call listening, and the first thing that came out of our chief counsel person's mouth was, if we have to do this, we will only do what's legally sufficient. One of our Border Patrol folks and OFO folks chimed in with, we can tell management it won't work. They will believe us. We can make any pilot or exercise in this fail. The real over the top for us was at the end of that banter back and forth, one of the individuals said, if we have to, we will get the press to film us forcibly taking DNA from an 89-year-old woman to garner public outrage.
So I saw that in your longer testimony, but it still begs the question, why?
It defies logic, sir. We're the largest law enforcement agency in the federal government, and we're thwarting one of the greatest tools that have been provided to us. You mentioned that the DNA Fingerprint Act of 2005 was passed when it was just the right idea. It was done in connection with the Adam Walsh Act at the same time. This was at a time we were focusing on tools that allowed us to be more efficient and effective in our law enforcement.
So one question or one reason I could think of is if it's just inordinately expensive and they simply didn't have it in their budget. So that leads me to question you, Mr. Kibble. You're expert in this. What does a rapid DNA test cost?
Senator, at the back in that time period, it was roughly $200 a test.
And that time period would be 2010?
No, around the 2000, between 2010 and 2018, 19. Recent innovations have brought that down to, like at scale, if you were deploying it fully along the border, it would drop down probably to about $100 a test.
So discuss that technology. I mean, what it's just is a nasal swab, like PCR test, or?
Sir, it's a buccal swab. It's a cheek swab. It would be incorporated into just the basic procedures that OFO and Border Patrol follow currently. It's just that instead of taking the swab and dropping it in an envelope and mailing it to join the 15-month backlog at the FBI laboratory, you would process it on site or nearby, and within 90 minutes, you'd have what's called an STR-ID, a short tandem repeat ID, which is nothing more than basically like a hyper-accurate fingerprint. Doesn't contain medical information or anything. And you're able to then make an instant, bounce it against national and international databases to see if you have any derogatory information on that subject.
So why do we have, with this technology that exists, why do we have such an enormous backlog at FBI? They just haven't updated their technology?
I can't answer that, Senator. I'm not sure. I do, with the Rapid DNA Act of 2017, the FBI established procedures to be able to ingest rapid DNA, STR-IDs from booking stations throughout the country, state and local agencies. I do know they have considered rapid DNA as a way to augment their capacity at the laboratory. I think they also are pursuing robotics to try to process about 120,000 samples a month. But the issue with all of that is you want to test it where you're collecting the DNA so the officer or the agent can make an informed decision right here and now before you let them into the country.
And again, you can have the results in 90 minutes. With today's technology in terms of computerization, we could run a match on that and have the results in very short order, correct?
Very short order. And again, to the issue that you addressed before, you've got to do it locally. I mean, to get the familiar, if you're going to determine whether it's a fraudulent family unit. And DNA testing, whether it's rapid or not, is agnostic. It can determine that there is a child trafficking situation going on here, or this is an authentic family unit.
Okay. Well, again, thank you. I want to thank, the whistleblowers for coming forward. And again, Senator Grassley for being a champion for you.
Thank you.